It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Wednesday. Gary, how are you?
Well, I'm telling you, the best part of waking up is not coffee in your cup.
Yeah.
It's waking up and seeing this all over social media. You ready? Let me play this. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. From The View. All right, here we go.
On screen. Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaitz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism, that DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
Oh, that pained her so to read that.
Now, I don't know what was said before. I haven't been able to get, there's too much other stuff. I don't know what caused that, unless they never mentioned and said, look, he denies it. The DOJ never went forward with it.
Right.
Now, I don't know, again, what they said before, but that's not the point. The point is they had to read a legal note.
You have a legal note. They probably are. They're probably getting close to having a sponsored segment.
And so what
now time for legal notes.
What we have said before is I've never heard of this in any type of talk show. And we just talked about this, yesterday? Yeah. Was it yesterday we talked about it?
Yeah, it was sometime this week. It was yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, and they've had to do this before. And what happens is the lawyers, they have lawyers in real time. I guess they're not on retainer because they're actually working, right? They wouldn't be on retainer because they're actually working.
I wouldn't want to pay that hourly rate.
But they have lawyers that in real time monitor the show and give them legal notes because, as I've said before, The View gives the impression, the wrong impression and the wrong stereotype, the absolutely wrong stereotype, that women are complete emotional idiots who cannot be trusted to even do a talk show without the lawyers monitoring it 24/7. Okay. 1 hour. It's not 24/7.
I don't know. They may have to go. They may have to replay every show going, did we miss anything? Did we miss anything?
And if you see the look on Sonny's face.
Oh, she was in pain. You have a legal note. Hey, it's time for legal notes. Brought to you by Acme Flowers. Get your flowers there fresh. Wow. Legal notes.
I've been in this business. We finished 42 years, going on 43 now. Mm-hmm. I am. I'm talking about and into the 36th year of talk radio. Mm-hmm. I can't. Could you imagine? Number one, management would never pay the attorney rate to have attorneys monitoring the show.
Well, no. I started this when I was 18. I never learned how to do this. I went straight from high school to this. Nobody ever gave me instructions. I didn't learn anything. And the audience is going, yeah, we know. Get on with it.
No, you make a fantastic point.
No one ever had to tell me.
In 36 years now, well, it's 35. What is it? 35 now in 3 months. So I'm into the 36th year. Like the number matters. Is there a reason I'm trying to figure out, is there a reason I'm so insistent of clarifying whether it's 35.3 or into the 36th?
I don't know who's making the balloons for the party, but they'll need to get it right.
I'm not getting paid any more for that. All right, hold it. All right, we need to take two. Okay, yeah. Super coffee.
Yeah.
I took a swig of the caffeine. Now I'm ready to go. But when you said that, I went, wow. in all my years, when I started out, nobody ever told me. I was never told, and I've never been told to this date. The only thing that we've ever gotten from management is plugola and payola.
Yeah.
That's it.
On training, on direction, yeah. We didn't
right.
receive any plugola or payola from management, to be clear.
No. I was offered it one time in music radio.
Yeah.
So.
Well, everybody's offered it. They just didn't offer enough. I mean, my ethics wouldn't allow it.
Well, yeah. They didn't offer enough. They didn't reach my price.
You kidding me? Boy George? No.
Yeah, for me, it was implied. They didn't come on cocaine and women to play songs. It's like, get out of my office.
Wow. I bet the women were disappointed.
Shh. There is no ethics committee investigation on my history. Let's not start one.
They're waiting outside with a big pile of cocaine. Did he say yes? Did he say yes?
Jeez, I thought that was snow out there.
Now, do we go in now?
But there was never.
There's a blizzard of 77 for you.
I don't know why, but it just jumped into my head. The blizzard of Dr. Oz.
Exactly. There you go.
By the way, we're not implying that Dr. Oz did cocaine. We're talking about that album, right?
Right.
That was Ozzy's album,
Yes.
Blizzard of Oz.
Let's not get our lawyers who are listening to the program all worked up.
But there was never any instructions. They just assumed you knew not to defame. Now, I had been in the music business. I was in media already, 7 years, in radio. And I was a station manager already before I started doing talk radio. So I knew what the rules were, but I don't think anybody ever told me. There was never anybody in management that came down and said, look, this is the thing. You cannot defame. And nobody ever told me you must tell the truth.
Right.
There was like no instructions. It was like, no, this is our radio station license. We want you to go on the air and just say what you feel. Really? Are you out of your freaking minds?
Yeah.
But
now, in music radio, they encourage you to lie. This is a great new song by Madonna. You're going to love it. It's quite unfortunate, but it's part of the game. It's what must happen.
Let's hear that song, "Playground in My Mind" by Clint Holmes.
Yeah.
My name is Michael. I got a nickel. What a wonderful piece of music.
Yeah. And next up, Terry Jacks. To kind of cleanse the palate.
Then the other one, what's it? Not watching Scotty grow. What was it with the? Remember,
Bobby Goldsboro?
Was it "Look How Big the Tree Has Grown" or whatever it was? Remember that sad song?
Honey.
Honey, that's right. Honey, I miss you.
One of my cousins looked identical to Bobby Goldsboro at that time.
Like, what a downer that song was.
Yeah.
But when you said that, I went, wow, you're right. Nobody ever. You just knew. If you were in the business, you just knew. If you're going to go into the business, you just knew, okay, I can't defame. And then as I got into it and started looking at law and everything else, then you start looking at, and I probably did when I was a station manager. I don't remember. Nobody ever told me, but I probably did my own research, looking at what is defamation of character and understanding the difference between defaming somebody who's a private citizen and somebody who is is in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
Then you learned about that, but I don't think I learned about that in college. Nothing.
Nobody ever had to tell. No
Right.
one was.
That's a great point.
Ever saying, look, because it seems like, look, if you have lawyers on staff, then it's more than a problem. It's like they go out of their way to do it and wait for the correction. And for me, I've never had any interest in saying something about someone that wasn't true, because my thought, just, my simple little brain would be, someone listening might know that person, might know it's not true. They would catch me in the lie, right? If I'm going to lie about somebody or accuse somebody of doing something, I have no interest in doing that, because the truth comes back at you like a really harsh boomerang, or like a lawyer on staff at The View.
But I think the first thing is, you and I, before you even get into the legal things, you and I have no interest in debating things that aren't true.
Right. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
waste my time.
Doesn't, it doesn't enter into it, because I don't give it room to enter, because I have no interest in engaging in that kind of behavior anyway.
Now, you know what the look on her face was? It's what I would feel if all of a sudden management came in and said, there's going to be a lawyer listening to your show in real time and be giving you notes to correct something once you come out of the commercial break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would probably resign.
Well, I would say what would warrant that, because I haven't done anything, so I'm not going to.
But if they just did that
randomly,
in general, because it destroys your credibility. It destroys your credibility when you have to say, here's a legal note from our last segment. And if you don't have credibility, you got nothing in this business.
Right.
At least that's how we look at it and looked at it. I know that may be old school, but that's how old school we are. And so that look was, you're treating me like a child.
Yeah.
That's what that look from Sonny was. She stares, and she's got to read it off the teleprompter, but you can tell. Now, I don't know, do they do basically musical chairs? Does each one of them have to do it? Okay, you did the last one now. Sonny, you've got to do this one?
Yeah.
Or does Sonny always have to do it?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it really, it's wild. Look, the closest I've ever come is when I used to, in my smarmy tone, talk about, back when I was a Navy SEAL, which to me is laughable if you think about me being a Navy SEAL. And then one night we got a gentleman who called, I don't know which of you was the Navy SEAL, and it hit me. Oh, my gosh. My dry tone in the delivery and I am not about to engage in stolen valor. There's zero interest in that, and the fact that they took it seriously. And that was the day I joined Aerosmith. It was over at that point.
You can have stolen Aerosmith valor.
Oh yeah, stolen rock and roll valor all day long. Are you kidding me?
Because there's so much valor in rock and roll.
Right, exactly. It's everywhere.
Oh, wow. You think we're going to have a fun show?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. 866-98-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in a truck's air system. That's why it's absolutely crucial to keep your air system moisture-free as temperatures begin to drop. If a vehicle didn't have an air dryer, the air system would be filled with that water, which can lead to dangerous and costly premature brake failures. To add insult to injury, if it's cold enough, that liquid will freeze, threatening air supply to various systems, including the transmission and suspension. Ice in the air system can also disable the compressor, for example, along with any of the air valves in the system. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures. Put it to the test.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I saw this yesterday on X, all right? If you want an example of Trump's fascist authoritarianism, dictator mentality. Listen, let me get this out. Listen to what he said. This goes back a few years when Barron was heading off to school and came up to say goodbye to his father.
Goodbye. Goodbye. I want all A's.
Okay.
Okay, all A's. And when you get older, what are you going to remember? No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And, you know what else? No tattoos. I don't ever want to see tattoos on you.
How dare he talk in that intimidating way to another human being, telling them how to live their life?
Fast forward to today, and Barron is now 6'9". I'm sorry, little man. What were you saying about the tattoos? 6'9". He's like a giant. He's like that giant from Game of Thrones. Trump just carries around with him. Wow.
I saw that and went, okay, I have to make something of that on the show tonight. But
yeah,
because as absurd, and of course, as my statement was meant to be, I could see a Democrat coming out, a liberal looking at that and going, that's horrible. Telling his son how to live his life when he becomes an adult.
Exactly.
How dare. Next thing, he wouldn't allow his son to get gender reassignment surgery. I love it. Reassignment. We're going to reassign this thing over there.
Yeah.
Oh, man, and we got to get to that, too.
Yeah.
A man is a man is a man from the speaker today.
Oh. Yeah. Well, it's, that whether you bring up that word assignment, but that's the word they're using now. It's even on actual medical forms. What gender were you assigned? Assigned? You mean what gender was I when I was born? Same as above.
Well, who's doing the assigning?
Exactly. Well, that's the whole thing, is that it's actually, the question is, did someone assign you that? That's what it all means. Someone assigned you that birth. A person said you were. That's from the party of science.
Well, it got to be bizarre yesterday when the Republicans made it clear, no, if you're a biological man, you cannot use a women's restroom. Yeah. Oh, they just went nuts. And this is, you had Congress, very good. I'm reading here, Congressman Sarah McBride, who is a transgender, wrote about how intolerant, and he got blasted.
Yeah.
He just got blasted. Who the hell do you think you are? Trying to take the moral high ground. What do you think? There's no dignity here. There's no dignity. Where's the dignity of a man? Where's the dignity for a woman when a man goes in to use the restroom? And I'm so happy this thing is going the opposite way. Oh, yeah. Because you and I sat here, what was it, 2014, 2015, the whole thing. Remember, people forget about it. Oh, and that was brought up the other day. Mm-hmm. Remember when Trump said, I'd let Caitlyn use any of the restrooms in Trump Tower? Remember that? Mm-hmm. That came up the other day on social media. Yep. And he doesn't hold that same opinion today. But that's when it was like, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. And then when the Charlotte Observer came out with their editorial piece that young, girls and young women are going to have to get used to male genitalia. These people are such damn perverts. They really, really are. And the misogyny, the woman hatred in all of this is just still, to me today, absolutely mind-boggling. And we'll go through some of the things from Speaker Johnson, also Nancy Mace, because she's the one that wanted to introduce it.
Yep.
And then
she's not budging.
No. And it's going to happen because Johnson made it clear.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll get to that more coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the early indications are the Democrats aren't going to change at all. No. You saw that Jeffrey's back in as being the Democrat leader,
Right. Yeah.
in the House, so it's not going to change at all. He's as radical as you can possibly get. Mm-hmm. On the border, you hear it every single day. They haven't changed at all. They're still screaming. You know, and everybody's doing the exact same thing. You and I've said it, and we said it as far back as I think 2018. I remember after the was it after 2018? I can't remember when it was. But I remember saying, Eric, the Democrats, they've got to change. You cannot continue with this identity politics and the insanity of the radical transgender movement where they stand on the border. And we never got to at that point, it wasn't even the Biden administration. And we just said they can't do it, and they're continuing to do it. You know, there's, the discussion, from some outliers, because anybody who's speaking right now is an outlier. Mm. When you think about Moulton, for example, Representative Moulton, when he came out, nobody's jumping behind him. They're not. But all the things that you look at where the American public, it's 2/3 of the American public, is looking at this and going, this is crazy. In fact, have you seen that since the radical transgender movement has been publicized with the ads of Republicans, that it's moved 10 points against the radicalism of the transgender movement?
Yeah, right.
It's moved 10 points. I think it was 7. I think it's now 72%. It was 62%. When people actually learn it, because there is this tendency for people to go, well, it's not really any type of a problem. And that's what the Democrats over the last couple of days, who was it? Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki said it. John Oliver.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the Republicans are really just overselling this entire thing here. Right. They're saying there's thousands, and there's not thousands and thousands. Women's sports haven't been taken over. Nobody said women's sports in totality have been taken over by men. But you can see the encroachment coming, and you can see major sporting events where women have lost to a man.
Right.
It's out there. It's happening, and it's expanding. So they can't justify and say it's right, so they try to, pick and choose. I want to play this. This is Nancy Mace. When an ABC reporter got her because there's a bill that she was proposing that would ban transgender women from using women's restroom at the Capitol, men using women's restrooms. And again, this is where the media can't change. They can't change either. Yeah, don't believe. Did you see the ones, just very quickly, a side note, the other theory that Morning Joe and Mika actually believe Trump is Hitler, and so they're trying to be friendly with Hitler so Hitler doesn't take them out.
Oh, yeah, trying to gain favor. Yeah,
trying to gain favor with Hitler. So
right.
This is really just, they're just scared to death, and they've actually bought it. That was the other theory that came out yesterday, and I went, no,
it's a submission to Hitler.
Yes, it's a submission to Hitler. Now, I laughed at it. It's not true. That's not what they're thinking.
No.
That's not what they're thinking.
And now after Comcast announced that they're going to spin off that section, including MSNBC, of their cable business, I think there were a number of factors in it. Just number one, the nature of Joe and Mika, and number two, they knew of that pending spinoff. And so if they believe now that, and there's no word yet if there's going to be a buyer of that, it will be separate from the other business that Comcast has, including other Comcast channels, cable channels. But I wonder if they feared for their job because they realize MSNBC is failing drastically, and Comcast knows that. CNBC's not doing well. Part of that spinoff. The golf channel is also part of it. So I think they realized. Look, we need to get in everybody's good graces.
Yeah, I haven't watched. I haven't had. Let me see. Satellite 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I dumped it, and I didn't even have the Golf Channel to begin with because that was a premium channel. I'm like,
yeah, I haven't
and
had
the
cable
thing is,
since 2017, I think.
Yeah, but you know what's changed everything? What's changed everything is YouTube not having commercials.
Yeah.
Paying for it.
Right.
I'd rather pay whatever it is, $11, $12 a month to have no commercials. I get everything that I want. Any golf, anything that happens.
All the updates from those channels they put on their YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I don't need it. And I can watch it at my convenience. I don't have to wait for them.
I don't have to watch out. I also don't have to watch a full 30-minute news broadcast like if I want to tune into something that's happening in another city. They all put, segments from their news broadcast on their YouTube channel.
But the Democrats aren't going to change. I don't see them changing at all. Even when we talk about 2016 when they lost. Remember? Okay, there was reflection there.
Mm-hmm.
You had we didn't buy into it. Mm-hmm. Well, we need to get into the heartland of America. And we need to get to flyover land and actually find out, well, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
This time it's like, no, it's your fault. 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 It's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody doing any, I think pondering as to what actually happened are outliers who are being demonized by Democrats. But here it is. Here's Nancy Mace with the ABC reporter. Here we go.
Here she goes. Here's Congresswoman Mace. Congresswoman Mace, can I ask you a question as you walk here? So the question is, with your piece of legislation about banning women from using...
100%, yes.
My question to you is...
It doesn't go far enough. I'll be filing more bills.
You have said that it was created in response to Congresswoman-elect McBride.
100%.
But should legislation be created targeted at one specific person?
It doesn't mention anyone in the legislation, but
you've said it was aimed at her.
No, I have said it's a result of this. I'm not going to allow biological men into women's private spaces. I will stand in the brink and stand in the way of anyone on the radical left who thinks that it's okay for a penis to be in a women's locker room or a bathroom or a changing room. Hell no. I'm not going to stand for it. And the Speaker said it would be in the House rules package. If it's not, I'll be ready with a motion, a privileged motion to force a vote on this. This is not okay. I'm a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And I'm not going to allow any man in any female private spaces.
Now, Speaker.
End of story. And by the way, I'm getting death threats from men pretending to be women. Why is it that these crazy people, the insanity, the radical left, are willing to kill women over a man's right to be in a women's restroom?
Speaker Johnson has said he wants to treat every new member with the words dignity and respect. Forcing this congressperson to go into a male restroom, is that dignity and respect?
Forcing women to share private spaces with men is not dignity and not respect. And I'm absolutely going to stand in the way of anyone who thinks it's okay for a man to be in our locker room, in our changing rooms, in our dressing rooms, in women's bathrooms. And in fact, if you agree with that, you're crazy.
Boom. It's aimed at protecting women. It's aimed at this idea that one person doesn't feel comfortable in the other bathroom, so everybody else in the other bathroom should just sacrifice their dignity for the one person.
And then the Speaker had come out, and he had said earlier that the law, he said, look, we believe in treating everybody with dignity, but you're not going to use the restrooms. And you had even the right say that's not strong enough. And then he came out and said this. Here we go. Right. Because he was asked, specifically, is a transgender man, a man.
Mm.
And he just said, and he just sort of sidestepped it. And then he came out and clarified it later on. Here's what he said.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
There you go.
And so let me find it here. All right, here's Jeffries, okay? Hakeem Jeffries for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Going back to the trans-related issues, you talk about this legislation all day. Should there be accommodations made for trans members of Congress, and if so, what should they be?
As Catherine Clark indicated, the notion that this incoming small House Republican conference majority is beginning to transition to the new Congress by bullying a member of Congress. This is what we're doing. This is the lesson that you've drawn.
There you go.
What about all the women? Are you not bullying all the women in those restrooms?
Well, as I'm looking there, the vast majority of people standing there are men.
Yeah.
There are a few women there in the line of Democrats there.
Yeah, ladies, how dare you bully a man?
Yeah. Yeah. Ladies, stop bullying men.
That's right.
I mean, the misogyny is still continuing in the Democratic Party. They're not going to let it go. The women hate, the absolute women hatred, because if you want to know where the bullying has been, look at the public bullying of Riley Gaines.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the public bullying that happened with all the women swimmers in the Ivy League.
Yep.
The threats, the intimidation.
Yep.
The absolute women hatred. And we've asked the question before, Democrats, why do you hate women?
Right.
What is it? And remember now, when you think about it in your head, understand that the top women's rights issue in this last election was this.
Yep, this is it.
And it was a biological women's rights issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They still think they're winning. They still think this is going to get them, that they're taking the high road, that this is going to get them wins in the future, and more people are against it, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
They still think this is the winning position. And they still are blind to their own insane arguments that boomerang bullying. The men are bullying the women.
Yeah. The men are defining what the definition of a woman is, because apparently women Democrats don't know what a woman is.
Right.
I go back to Justice Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a biologist. I can't define what a woman is.
Right.
Come on. And so this is why Republicans need to do exactly what Mace did there. Now, both you and I at times have rolled our eyes with her and said, stop with the drama in stuff that wasn't, that didn't suit the level of drama that she was putting out there. She was perfect there.
Well, this is where the fight should be. This kind of fight is exactly
perfect.
What is warranted.
Yes.
And don't back down.
Yep.
It's awesome to see it.
And we'll get to immigration coming up, because the same thing happened there, too.
Yeah.
On immigration now, they're all, they're going back. Obviously the American public is livid as to what happened. Democrats don't care. They're going down. They're digging a bigger hole now on all these issues.
Right.
And the media is going to go right along with them, because there's nowhere else for them to go. That's what happens when you back yourself into a corner with identity politics, judging people by groups and not individuals, and the victim-oppressor narrative becomes your political gospel.
Yeah.
You keep dividing, you keep dividing, you keep dividing. You keep taking crazy positions.
And think you're going to win.
Yeah. So, and I think Jeffries was saying, the very small majority here, as if, okay, you're a very small majority, you better watch it, because this issue is going to come back our way.
Right.
Really?
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. The House held a FEMA hearing yesterday. Right. We will get to that here in a little bit. Jon Stewart comments on frickin' frack. I mean, Joe Scarborough and Mika.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just great.
Yeah. I mean, it's so bad.
I know.
There's no way to let that, it was like they thought they were putting their superhero capes on. You could tell. We think it's time for a different approach. You mean because he won so big? You mean because you got defeated in a harsh way?
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Well, here we are, Wednesday already.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's going to be, well, it's always fun, but every single day, it's like, wow. I love waking up.
Me too. It's a good sign I'm still alive.
Yes, but I love waking up because I get to wake up twice a day because I sleep twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I wake up, it's like, all right, I'm laying here, grab the phone, and within probably 90 seconds, I'm roaring laughing. I mean, laughing.
Yeah.
At the different stuff out there. This is the Daily Show from the other night, from Monday night. Okay.
All right.
I keep wanting to say John Daly.
I know, Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart.
Right.
Then again, it'd be interesting if John Daly hosted. John Daly could do maybe the Christmas edition.
Yeah, maybe
with that beard and everything. Put on a red suit.
Exactly.
But here's Jon Stewart talking about the visit of Morning Joe and Mika to Mira Lago.
Meanwhile, Joe and Mika Brzenzinski Scarborough, who famously warned of the growing threat of Trump's fascism, also had an interesting announcement to make.
Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mira Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Because you said he was Hitler. But look, we don't know what the visit was. We don't know what the tone of the visit was.
We talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets.
We've learned nothing!
Oh, my God.
Oh. I love it. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know, because you said he was Hitler. I love it. Yeah, it is painfully obvious to everyone, which again, what they really hate about it, what the rest of the left really hates about that whole thing, is that, come on, we were trying to convince people he actually was Hitler, and then you just totally undermine everything that we do. How are we going to come back and say he's Hitler? You guys went and sat down with him. You can't do that. Come on, you take away our argument. to take away our only play when it comes to Trump. This is the anger you're seeing on the left. They know of no other way. They know of no other way. This is going to be their tactic until, at least the end of my time. Maybe not the end of time itself. But my life, I don't expect this to change anytime in my lifetime. How do you unindoctrinate generations of people that you've told them they must behave this way? This is who you are. You must behave this way because that's who those people are that we oppose.
And I don't think that there is any self-awareness, the fact that Joe Scarborough and Mika have been part of repeating what a narrative that we have had for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. Because the Hitler thing started with Bush. And then everything in the Republican Party was Hitler, 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 Hitler. If you've seen some of the deranged people out there, and you've seen it probably on social media, the people that are screaming, the one, I don't think we didn't play it because the woman was cursing.
Yeah.
But the one neighbor that had the Trump sign and the woman came and she's just losing it completely.
Yeah.
I believe that because I believe that many people on the left, what was it? I believe what Maureen Dowd said, that her liberal friends, when there's something that's out there that they don't like, they just turn off the media. They don't pay attention.
Right. They close the door, they draw the shades, turn the TV off.
As talk show hosts, and doing it so long, we can find people that don't know what the facts are based on, at times, ignorance or even willful ignorance. I find more willful ignorance from the left than I do on the right. Not to say it doesn't exist, but I see a lot more on the left, which means they hear Hitler, Hitler, Hitler for 20 years. You're Hitler.
Right.
Because nobody in their minds would be able to get away with saying Hitler for 20 years.
Right.
Without there being some type of truth to it.
Right.
And so you've got these indoctrinated people who actually believe that Trump is Hitler.
Right. No, I mean they do. You've taught them this is the truth. You've told them this is the truth. And now if you want to change directions, you have to tell them all that you were lying to them.
Right. And all of a sudden, boom, like that. Oh,
yeah, right.
We're having constructive conversation. You said he was Hitler.
Yep.
And you've been calling Republicans Hitler. When did it start? I'm trying to think because we're almost in 2025. And you look back and when did it start with Bush? And I know somebody brought up yesterday, no. Other people have been called Hitler. I'm not talking about other people being called Hitler in the past. We're talking about the marketing plan over 20 years of every Republican candidate or any Republican that the left doesn't like. They end up being fascist or Hitler. That we haven't seen over a 20-year period. And so probably with Bush, I'm going to guess it started, in 2003, 2004?
Probably around then.
Yeah. That's because I remember the protest at his ranch in Texas where he was called, Hitler, and they were protesting outside, Hitler, 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 Hitler. Well, after 20 years, you're actually going to convince some people that he's Hitler. And all of a sudden, one day you wish to change. And you're one of the leading voices of the biggest lies out there. And that's really, when you think about it, when you look at the campaign, because you can make the argument that Joe Scarborough told the biggest lie,
right?
The biggest piece of lying and gaslighting when he screamed that this is the best Biden ever.
Yeah. F you if you can't handle the truth.
Yeah, F you if you can't handle the truth as to what's going. which is where it gets into the, what you see and what you hear is not real. In fact, he's not the same that he was. He's much better. And I think that gave permission for a lot of other Democrats to say the same thing. And that's why we blame, look, Democrats, you're to blame. Well, it's Nancy Pelosi. It's just, no, you're to blame. You believe the BS.
Look, this is what the movie The Village is all about. I figured it out. It's about Donald Trump, the monster that doesn't really exist. He's attracted to the color red. That's clear. Got the whole thing with the wall going on. That was clear. We want to keep you on our side.
Yes, yeah.
We want to keep you talking like we talk.
They wished in the town council there, they wished to keep a strong border wall.
Right, yeah. They got the whole thing with the wall going on, like I said. And they don't introduce technology because they don't want their people getting informed. And it turns out there was no monster at all.
And don't forget the killing of the animals in order to scare the population.
Right.
But the government was killing the animals.
Right.
In order that the kids would believe it.
Right. You had to build real fear.
And the entire thing was to hide the next generation from the truth.
Right.
That's a great point.
Go watch The Village.
Yeah, if you never watched The Village, yeah.
And now that we're here where we are today, you'll see that I'm right.
Yeah,
it was about Donald Trump all along.
What was that, in 2000 the movie came out?
I was thinking 96. No, it wasn't 90. 96 was when was The Sixth Sense?
I don't even know.
The other M. Night Shyamalan.
No, The Village is 2004.
2004. Yeah. When was The Sixth Sense? Is that 2000?
Well, so The Village came out after Signs. Because Signs, Signs was filmed while 9/11 was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, Sixth Sense, 1999.
99, okay. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know why I always thought The Village came out before Signs. But Signs, I think, must have come out in 2002 then.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Go check it out. If you never watched The Village, the movie, you watch it, you go, oh, my God. Because you said this a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it goes back a few months.
Yeah, you said
when I first said it.
Yeah, you said
and did the breakdown of it. It's pretty clear that M. Night Shyamalan can see the future.
And it's a great movie because what it actually is about is basically the city council, the elders of this village. Because you don't learn it when you first see it. You think it's a movie based in the past, or not a movie. The story is about a movie based in the past, and it's not. It's based in the present, but we'll just say it's a village that was created by the elders in order to keep the kids, which were the next generation, from knowing the truth and starting a society outside of the real world.
You control their language. You control what they learn.
Yep.
The access to information.
You scare them.
You scare them to keep them from getting to the wall and leaving.
Yeah, those we don't speak of.
Right.
And think about it, not just the dead,
which are clearly Republicans.
Not just the dead animals, but remember, the monsters going through.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The monsters going through the town, and everybody hides in their houses. Everything completely fake.
Yep.
All propaganda.
To
control the masses.
Build fear to control the masses. Attracted to the color red. We already know that's about Trump. So, I mean, it's very clear. M. Night Shyamalan.
And I just thought about there was actually there are two walls. There was the imaginary wall, where they had the guard towers where you weren't supposed to cross to go into the woods. And there was the actual wall.
An actual wall.
Outside the woods.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hopefully we're not giving the entire movie away, but we sort of did, but it's still worth watching.
Look,
anyway.
if you didn't see it yet, that's on you. This
Yeah.
movie's a quarter of a century old. Or 20 years old.
A fifth of a century old. Yeah.
So you had time.
Great movie, though.
Yeah.
And I forgot to watch it around Halloween.
And on The Sixth Sense, he's already dead. So just, yeah. As Nate Bargatze said, all of us guys watched that movie and said, no, it was believable to us that they would go through the entire movie and his wife wouldn't say a word to him. All of us guys watching go, no, I feel your pain, dude. I know exactly where you're at. We didn't even come up with the idea or thought that he might already be gone. He wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just love that analogy that the village is about Trump.
Yeah.
Yes.
Watch it. Lay it out. It's pretty clear.
M. Night Shyamalan was actually Nostradamus.
He's a visionary.
Modern-day Nostradamus.
Yep.
Exactly. Debate that one.
Exactly.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, Tom Holman out there making the rounds. We'll also talk Linda McMahon. I think great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Never been a fan of Dr. Oz at all. Thought he was a horrible Senate candidate. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. In there. But for the most part, the vast majority of the people that he put in, I agree with. And they all have to answer to him in the long run.
Yep.
They all have to answer to him in the long run, and so we'll see what happens there. The only thing is, you've got, for example, Holman's out there every single day. You don't have Hegseth or Gates out there every day promoting what they're going to do.
Mm.
And that's what you really want. And that's why, as we've said before, that's the problem with Holman. And Holman's great. And he talked about his 3 priorities: deport the dangerous criminal aliens, secure the border, and find out where all the missing, whatever the number is, 300,000 plus missing children are.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really argue with any of it. They'll try. You can't argue with it.
No.
And so we'll play Holman coming up here in just a little bit, plus some of the FEMA hearing in the House.
Yeah. What I love about Holman, what I love about what's going on right now with the incoming administration, and also, we can throw in Nancy Mason, her position on the transgender issue on Capitol Hill. Nobody is flinching. Nobody's backing down. And that's what I love about the Trump team that he had put together, prior to the election for the campaign. And now it's part of the transition and will clearly be a part of the incoming administration. There can't be any of that backing down, that, trying to basically cower down to the liberal activist media. I'm so tired of that stuff. It was so exhausting to watch establishment Republicans over the years. Well, if we blah, 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 we don't like messy. Yet we know. You don't like to fight. Fighting requires you to get messy.
Well, and especially now, we'll talk more about it coming up here following the bottom of the hour. You have no choice. If you're going to change what happened the last 4 years, you just can't babysit the same insanity
You can't.
going on in all of these departments across the board.
Right. Exactly.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. When I look at some of the different nominees, I think Linda McMahon will do a great job. I think she was a solid call yesterday. One of the when I look at, for example, what you have to do, there is so much rot in the system right now that when you look at, I understand why Trump wants Gates. I don't think he trusts anybody else to actually do what you have to do. Now, we've heard the term disruptor, and the entire thing, the allegations, the defense that there was that there's nothing there and everything, whatever, that will work itself out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about Gates, you know that Gates will go in and fire people.
Yeah.
Do you have any confidence? I'm trying to think of who else that you can put in there that you can have confidence will fire the people that need to be fired. Because we hear the things, they just want to blow everything up. No. They want to fire the people that promoted the insanity of the last 4 years that the American public has rejected. So when you look at Gates, you go, Gates will do it. I mean, there was going to be tons of negative. If he gets in, there's going to be tons of negative press on him. Hegseth, the same thing. There'll be tons of negative publicity because when you fire people, then they're coming after you big time that you're destroying the Department of Justice. You're destroying the Department of Defense. You're going to have 100 military leaders, right, have signed this. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Understand that what's happened. There's a lot of people that are, smiling, happy, celebrating. It's going to get ugly.
Well, it's going to have to.
You have no other choice but to
because
get ugly.
when you're going to purge the rot, there's going to be a stench that's going to last for a long time.
And Gates is going to stick to that precisely. Now, we've looked at, I look at whether it's, I think the two worst appointments that he has put in there are Robert Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Oz. Both really over in the same departments. And to give you a broad-based thing of it without getting into the specifics, they're all over the place. They're all over the place. You don't, when you look at Gates, you go, just using Gates and Hegseth, different departments, they're exactly precise of the things that they look as the rot in there. You don't have that.
In terms of doing the job,
right.
I don't have any lack of confidence in either Hegseth or Gates. In terms of doing the job that they're nominated to do, whether or not they will get confirmed through the Senate, there are some doubts, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how that goes. But in terms of the job that they can do, or that they're supposed to be doing in those roles, I have no concern. The concern with Oz, coming in. There's a number of concerns. And we go back to his Senate run. Horrible candidate.
Horrible. Absolutely the worst.
Just a horrible candidate. I'm with you on McMahon. I don't have any lack of confidence in her. I think she'll do a great job. I really, again,
well,
we'll
example,
see where it goes on Medicare and Medicaid,
right?
With Oz and what he'll actually be able to implement on RFK. Let's get through the confirmation process first, I guess. It's kind of like where we were before the election. All right, we're just going to have to take it day by day on all of this, because I don't want RFK Jr. in that role because he's a liberal and he's a lifelong liberal, and there's really no debate about that.
Well, that's why, adjusting the things when he decided to become part of this campaign, and even part of when he had to back off on, and we had talked about this the other day in the specifics of it, his campaign told him, you can't say that. You got to say, if you're running for office, you got to say something else. That's not what I want.
Right.
I want somebody who is absolute clarity on where they stand, especially now, because when it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly fast. It's going to get very ugly in January, very ugly. You think you've seen demonization of Trump now? Wait till you see the demonization. Oh, yeah. The apocalypse is happening now. The Democrats aren't going to change.
No. Nope.
Putting Jeffries in there and really no challenge at all. Boom. He's back in there again. They're sending the message that we aren't radical enough. This is sort of like in Virginia, isn't it?
Yeah.
When in Virginia, the governor's race a few years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. We need to be louder, more radical. That was the problem. We don't need to change what we're doing. You only have a handful of them that are changed, that say that change needs to come about, get away from the identity politics. But none of those people are going to have any say-so in the future of the movement, of the party.
Right.
So this is their game. It's basically, you're too stupid to understand what we were saying before, so now we're going to say it louder. We're going to be angrier. We're going to say it more and more. We're going to keep doing the same thing.
On the major issues out there, they haven't got to the economy stuff yet. But on the border, they haven't changed at all. In fact, they've doubled and tripled down.
Yeah.
As we talked about yesterday on CNN, trying to compare it to internment camps. The Japanese internment camps that were, again, those were American citizens that were interred there. That was interned, excuse me, there. And there is nobody calling for that, but it doesn't matter. That's what they're screaming. As we saw yesterday with Scott Jennings. Because the second time you said it, they're not going to be interning American citizens. Stop that. I'm not saying that. Yeah, you are.
That's exactly what you're saying.
And so that's the fear tactic that they're attempting to throw in. And so, and the other thing with RFK being the lifelong radical left liberal that he is, and not sure where Trump wants to go on health care. Because our biggest fear with a Trump lame duck presidency is that he will listen to those voices inside of his family that are much more liberal and wish to move him closer to a Medicare for all system that he said back in 2016 that we may have to look into that,
revisit that again.
Revisit that with Robert Kennedy Jr. there, who's for that. No.
Well, because administratively you can move more and more to that, and you're not going to get any pushback from the left. Democrats aren't going to push back if they see the HHS moving more in that direction. The point would be, all right, who would change that direction? It won't be, if a Democrat becomes president again, it won't be that Democratic president. They're going to want to move it further in that direction, not the opposite.
Right.
And that's the problem, is that you slowly boil that frog till you get to the point of you can't take away the benefits that you expand under HHS if that were to be the case. You know, if that's what RFK Jr. is going to push for, then no.
When I say members of his family, I know she's not part of this, but this influence is still there. I'm talking about Ivanka,
his daughter.
Ivanka.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that there are things that she's pushed for, that he's brought up, that are far more liberal than I would want. She wants things like a child care tax credit. So what you pay for child care, there would be a tax credit or some kind of deduction or something, on a much greater level, which goes far beyond the child tax credit that's already in place. And also universal health care. Those are things that, look, she's going to have her father's ear. She did for his first term. And she's stepped down, and she wasn't part of his campaign the second time around. But he won in a decisive way. And the effect of November 5th could be that she believes, okay, this is the opportunity to make that change. And she's going to have, there's no doubt she talks to him on a regular basis right now. It's just not the same role to the same level as in the first term. So those are the concerns that I have. Because if you have the GOP going that direction, when the Democrats get control again, they're not going to turn that around. They're going to go further with it.
This just in, Trump has appointed Mike Tyson to the President's Council on Physical Fitness.
All right, there you go. The one benefit of Dr. Oz is that when you're being over Medicare and Medicaid, is when you sign up for Medicare, you get a 30-day free trial of his supplements. I don't even know if he has supplements. I don't know what he does.
And by the way, I just so people know, I made that up about Mike Tyson.
Yeah. No, he's going to be in charge of something else. I don't know what that was. Boxing reform. Did you see the story, Alex? Each fighter is barred from fighting for 24 days. It's a rest rule after a fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In Texas, you can't fight again in Texas for 24 days. I don't know why in the world there was any effort on that. I don't know what the genesis of that whole law is. But they can't fight. It's, you got to rest after your fight. Yeah. I think I think that's a given.
Is there a senior citizens?
Yeah, after the age of 50, it's or 55. Yeah. Not only do you have to do that, but you have to go to bed every day at 4 p.m. Yeah, so
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, the Trump case with Mershon.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many things. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm just going through. I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot. We got to cover that. Also coming up and what actually to do. Andrew McCarthy with an interesting article. Also, our colleague Mark Levin recommends that President Trump file a common law writ with the U.S. Supreme Court so they have the option of intervening in the Mershon case. So it's not hanging over Trump over the entire presidency.
Right,
so,
which appears like that's the plan.
Yep.
We'll get more into that. But they thought they were heroes, so they think they'll just be the hero now. Just hang this forever over his second term. I really, again, they don't learn. You know, you think over and over again. Jack Smith was the same way, though.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court had already come down, and Jack Smith comes back. Yeah, but. I mean, if you think about those actions by Smith, and then, my gosh, the number of missteps by Mershon and Alvin Bragg, they're hell-bent. They're hell-bent on getting this done.
Yeah, Bragg still wants to do it.
Yep.
Maybe
exactly.
Maybe he saw the article that was written the other day, the fact that nobody's really going to challenge him on the Democrat side, and so he's going to be DA again.
Yep. He's going to be in that seat for a minute. Yep. So keep it going. Just keep it going. Again, you get the win.
Yeah, it doesn't affect him.
Doesn't
in fact,
affect him at all.
If he gets the win, it affects him. He believes in a positive way.
Exactly. That's the reward. So, but this is exactly who they are. Jack Smith clearly is going to be on his way out, but they couldn't quit throwing. They can't quit throwing things at Trump. By the way, I think those two things, the Jack Smith situation, and while it's going to be, gone, and the Alvin Bragg situation, while I guess we'll see if it's going to be gone, I think those are just two of the many things that are going to be thrown at Trump. There are going to be all new things thrown at Trump over the next 4 years. Get ready for it. It'll start January, if not sooner. I don't know what they do, what they bring, but I never would have imagined those 34 baseless counts that Alvin Bragg filed. I never would have thought that Letitia or that any prosecutor or AG of a state would do what Letitia James did, based on nothing.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. You know what I noticed yesterday in the media?
What?
All of a sudden, Christmas type of articles started appearing.
Oh.
Like the old, what are the top toys going to be? I think Fox News had that one. And I said, oh, okay. Here we go. And you were just asking me, when are you heading out to see your dad? That's so. And I don't know. It was really sort of yesterday. I sort of got that feeling. Just driving home in the morning, the number of people, going home at 5 o'clock in the morning, the number of people with their Christmas lights up already. We are heading to the point of now. I think we're actually there, where the day after Halloween, people have their Christmas lights up. And part of it's because so many people actually have it professionally done.
Yeah, you have to schedule it or it won't get done.
Right.
So unless you want it done post-Christmas, you have to get it in early.
So when so many people do it, they're putting them up in October now. And so it's like November 1st. People have Christmas lights on because they say, and I don't know what it costs to get the temporary Christmas lights up. What is it? $1,000?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I do my own, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's something like that. And it's and it's like, well, if we're paying this kind of money to get it professionally done, well, then we're going to use them early.
Well, and you have to get in on that schedule because, they have to send a crew out to get that done.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody forgets, and all of a sudden, here you are, next thing you know, it's close to December 1st, and everybody wants their lights done. So, yeah. I've never had that problem. I like the time when I put it up, because we have pretty mild fall seasons here, and I love the fact that I really don't have to worry about it. For the most part, every once in a while I wait or the timing is just bad for whatever reason, and there's a strong cold front that comes in and I'm freezing. But I actually don't mind that, because I put Christmas music on the Bluetooth and get it done. It's also a good reason for me to get on my roof and double check seals around the fireplace and around vents and everything else. I do that a couple times a year. And I also, when I'm done with the lights, I clean the gutters. If I'm going to be doing all that stuff, I get it done. So for me, it's enjoyable still.
Well, I'm already starting to put inside the house, put the Christmas stuff up, because I'll be gone for Thanksgiving. I like everything done by the time I get back.
Mm-hmm.
So I discovered something. You know, the incandescent bulbs, or the lights that they have, if you have like those village houses, those decorative houses.
Yeah.
And you've got that little, the little socket, and then, there's that little springy thing that attaches to inside like of a I don't know, a holiday house.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that this year they're now making, because those lights, the incandescent lights, were the only ones they were making for years. And those things get so dang hot. It's like a microwave. And I'm always afraid. I've always been afraid. Well, okay, I'm afraid when I'm in the house to have them on, because they get so hot. You can touch one of those, like, I don't know, 30 seconds after, and it's still hot. It'll burn your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now they make the LEDs. Found out this year.
Yeah, right.
They make the LEDs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which was like, that was my big, I was like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not that expensive either.
Right.
So the LEDs have really come down in price. Really have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All my Christmas lights, my outdoor Christmas lights are all LED. My wife does both trees, so I think everything is LED now.
Yeah, everything for me is LED now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. And I haven't seen anything yet. I did go into a couple of my supermarkets and ask them, you open? And other retail stores, are you open Thanksgiving? Yeah, working, can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Thanksgiving, the day after. Black Friday. Yep, got to be here at 5, got to be here at 4. Like, okay.
Yeah.
You see how things have changed in our society. Remember how that was such a huge issue 8-9 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People need to have off the entire, everyone I met who's got to work. Now, I don't think a lot of places are open Thanksgiving.
What has changed is e-commerce.
Yeah, it's changed everything.
You saw companies as e-commerce, Amazon was really taking off. Walmart came in right behind them and upped their e-commerce game. But the point being is that, okay, you don't get up at 4 o'clock on Black Friday to go stand in line, for maybe to get the deal on the TV. And I saw, I don't know how many Black Friday deals that started, pre-Black Friday in October online. And you saw a lot of companies after that, as that was on the rise, a lot of companies, well, we will be making sure that our staff has Thanksgiving. Yeah, you're not going to be open because demand. If demand were through the roof, then it would change, and it's going to go where the demand is. And if, people don't want to work in retail, I get it. I've worked retail, my family. I don't know how many, pretty much everybody, I think, has worked in retail at some point. Mm-hmm. And you understand. And so that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because I don't see anyone getting off from the airlines on Thanksgiving or the Friday after.
This is your captain speaking. I'm all alone up here in the cockpit. So if anybody has any idea how to fly a plane, I'm kind of new at this.
There are no flight attendants to serve the free cocktails in first class.
Yeah.
Then the revolution begins.
Everybody just make a run for it. Make a run for the bar.
As long as the flight attendants are there serving alcohol, it's like the pilot's going to be an hour late, but we're going to load you up with alcohol.
Yeah, here we go.
Yay! Ready, catch.
Okay. It's, I think, again, because everybody was able to, I think, compartmentalize that early on. My nephew is a police officer, and this is the time of year where a lot of people will look for either an extra job. UPS is famous for hiring extra workers to fulfill all of the orders and everything, shipments coming through. But people look for either a second job or extra hours in order to pay for Christmas. And my nephew is working on both of his days off. He's a police officer, so he works either private security. Usually it's private security. But, he found one gig that was going to pay him 2 days in a row. He had to work 14-hour days. So 28 hours rather, in 2 days. And for him, that was, it was exhausting. After that first day, he was like, wow. I think he said that was the longest day he had worked in a long time. But he was getting paid a good hourly rate, and that was going to pay for Christmas for his family. So, that's what people have. Anytime, back in our day, when I was working manufacturing, I was working manufacturing during the day and working radio at night. And when they would come to us and say, hey, we're going to do some overtime for like 6 weeks or 3 weeks or 5, whatever it was like, all right.
Yeah.
That's extra money.
Oh, when I would get overtime, especially when I worked at the big plant when I was a United Steel worker.
Yeah.
Because they really came through with massive overtime.
Right.
I remember working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember that when I was working, there were times when we weren't working 12 hours, 6 days a week. We were just working overtime when they wanted us to work Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we used to get out, I think, like 1 o'clock. And you had to be back like at 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like,
yeah.
What do we do?
Right.
And so everybody went out. Nobody really drank, but everybody went out.
Mm-hmm.
And we hit the bars.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever heard of the Goo Goo Dolls song Broadway, we hit the bars on Broadway. But I didn't drink. And then maybe we had to be in at 6. But everybody said, why go to sleep? We got to be right back.
Yeah.
Go home, everything else, get a couple hours to come back.
Right.
Stay awake. And then I think we worked like 6 to 12. But I remember then after the bars in Buffalo closed at 4.
Yeah.
And then there was they were a motorcycle club that became actually a motorcycle gang that the feds went after years later. But a bunch of the guys that worked at the plant were in the motorcycle club. And at 4 o'clock, they opened their bar. And I used to bartend till like 5:45, from 4 to 5:45.
Right.
Make some tips. And it's like, okay, we got to head back.
Right.
And then, head back and then work 6 to noon. We loved the overtime. And anybody who ever said, there were people that said, well, I don't want to work overtime because with the taxes, it's not worth it. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
When you want money, it's worth it.
We, working in high school years for a few years, my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I worked at a grocery store. And I loved it when, we'd have to come in at 4 a.m., unload the truck on a Tuesday, come in at 4 a.m. and load the truck, then go to school and come back later that day. And I loved doing it. And what I really loved was when people would just storm the store if we got a winter storm. In Texas, that's how it works. If there's a quarter inch of snow in the forecast, then everybody goes to the grocery store and buys everything, off the shelves. And I loved that. I've just always loved the idea of grocery stores and people getting, the sustenance and everything they need for their families. I've just always loved it. I've just always had this fascination with it. And I loved working there as a kid, and even the long hours. It was great. It was just, I loved the job.
I remember when I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. I started out as the porter, cleaning the toilets and everything else. Then they said, okay, you're going to be an assistant baker trainee. And I just remember working 2 Thanksgivings because I was there a little over a year and a half, 2 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Senior year of high school and then part of the first year of college. And I can remember that just standing there, and it was like Thanksgiving morning. I was in there at 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the morning because that was the old Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Remember, time to make the donuts? They weren't lying. And because you made the donuts right there. It's like now I think most donut places, they make it at a factory and ship it, with overnight and then ship it to the donut shops. They don't actually make the donuts there anymore, but they made the donuts there. I just remember getting to be 10 o'clock or 10:30, and place was mobbed with people sitting there and everything else. And I don't know why. I have great nostalgia over that. And back then, people were smoking. It was the mixture of, you could smell, the donuts baking, the yeast, the coffee, the cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but there's just great nostalgia in those memories.
Right.
Then at 12 o'clock, everybody had to clear out, and then we finished cleaning up, and, at 1 o'clock, it was just completely quiet inside
Back
there.
then, at a Dunkin', you would sit at the counter.
You could sit at the counter. Yeah, you could go to the counter and order donuts, but you sat at the counter, yeah.
Yeah.
They had that corner, that like sort of oblong counter.
Right.
That went there in the little nice soft cushioned stools.
Right.
Now, they had the big windows that I had to clean every week that I hated that.
Oh, yeah.
But there was, I don't know why, there's always greatness. I always think about that when it comes to, this time of the year, working those just 2 days. And isn't it funny? In 2 days in your life that you can look at, and there's so much nostalgia built into that.
Yeah.
And it had to do with work.
Yeah.
And maybe not the most pleasant work.
Well, yeah, but it's where you in those in those years where you were putting together, okay, this is how it has to work. This is a good thing. This is, I'm being productive. It really, to me, was a positive experience. I didn't like having to get up to go unload that truck. I didn't like necessarily having to work long hours, but I loved being there. Once I got there, it was just, I just loved being there.
When the truck would come in to fill the stock room when I worked there, I loved that. I loved being the stock boy. I don't know why. What do you do? Today I'm a stock boy.
Oh, man, I love that.
I don't know what it was, but I loved saying that when I was, 17 years old.
Well,
I'm a stock boy.
Yeah. I did a lot of that at the grocery store. I would also work as a checker, but a lot of it was stocking shelves, facing the shelves, which means the labels facing front and all neat and everything else. And then, of course, inevitably somebody comes by and messes it up.
As an old man now with a bad knee, bad back, and bad ankle, I don't think the same way.
I could probably work. In that capacity, I would be slower.
Yeah, I could do it.
I'd take my time. Yeah.
But somebody younger could do it faster.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. The FEMA director before the House yesterday will have some of that audio. That got to be pretty good. What was the other thing? Oh, did you see that the NFL is fine with the Trump dance?
Yeah. Right.
How things have changed.
Yeah.
Oh, my. They're fine with it.
Well, they consulted with Joe and Mika. So.
Oh, that's what happened when Joe and Mika were okay.
Exactly.
With it. Then it was
then
fine.
it's fine.
The other thing we've got coming up is, Democrats are analyzing, even in the media, okay, what went wrong? And we'll have some of that coming up because it's like, you still don't get it.
You don't get it.
You still don't get it.
Yeah.
You still don't get it.
Right.
But one of the things we talked about was the Democrats, it looks like, aren't going to change at all. I don't think there's as much reflection as there was in 2017.
No.
2016, 2017,
No.
where they said, well, we need to go to flyover land and find out what the lunch pail, hard hat farmer kind of person is thinking out there.
Yeah, then they get on Amazon to buy some coveralls.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
Well, listen to this here, because this is on the whole, the deportations. This is what's going, again, like on the border. They don't get it.
Yeah.
But here we go.
Promise you with every fiber of my being, because I'll probably be one of those people, that if anybody comes to these people and tries to drag them out by force, there will be protests of people like me, American citizens, who are going to stand there and do everything possible to prevent these women and children, which is all who these people are.
How about the criminals? How about the terrorists? How about the convicted?
How do you sort through? How do you know who it is?
How do you sort through? That's the problem. I don't know who.
Stop. I'm sorry. I live next to these people. I can tell you they are women and they are children. Are there terrorists among them? I don't know. But I can tell you that there are.
Neither does the government.
But I can tell you.
But
let me tell. Okay. But what I'm telling you right now, practically speaking, is that there will be people, American citizens, who will prevent these little kids from being dragged out of these shelters. There are. And what's going to happen to these people? What is going to happen to the military when the military opens fire on us?
No one's. Okay.
By the way, you catch that little part? I don't know if there are any terrorists amongst them.
Yeah. But the argument is, that's Julie Brzezinski, the Democrat activist out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, since it will cause disruption, then the criminals get to stay and the terrorists get to stay, is basically what they're saying.
Exactly.
I mean, my God.
Doesn't matter. We'll protect them all.
That's their fallback position.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, slowly but surely getting the answer that I was talking about last week when I said, Eric, I think the biggest story that's being missed here is where a Democrat's going to go over the next 5 years. Now it seems like the direction is clear, because they're not going to move back and say, okay, after they're now doubling down on everything, they're not going to retract that.
No,
when they put Hakeem Jeffries in again as the minority leader of the House, at that point I went, okay, they have no intention of changing. Seeing the reaction by the media and the Democrats to Nancy Mace's legislation that would say, sorry, no men allowed in women's bathrooms at Capitol Hill, and seeing the reaction and the freak out of that, it's like, okay, they haven't learned anything. Just playing from Julie Brzezinski, the Democratic strategist, from a couple of nights ago on CNN, where she said, I will be one of these people that stand there and prevent Donald Trump from deporting illegal immigrants, and was asked, what about criminals or terrorists? And didn't matter to her.
Yeah. Right.
It didn't matter. In fact, you went, terrorist? What, how do you know there's terrorists? How do you know who's who? Well, that's why we have to go through the process. So now the fallback position from the Democrats is you can't do anything.
Right.
You can't do anything because you might deport someone who doesn't have a deportation order, or if they're just illegally in the country, that's not enough to deport them.
Right.
And so you can't deport terrorists, you can't deport criminals, you can't deport anybody, is the Democrats' fallback position. Because people will get angry if you do so.
Right.
they haven't learned anything. This was part more of the discussion. This is Scott Jennings again, as he talks about, why the Democratic Party is losing men. And I'm playing this because he gets into something that we identified immediately also, which was the whole thing of, okay, we need to shore up the men. Let's put in Walz. Let's make him the vice president.
Yeah.
That will get the men in.
Yeah.
And then I'm playing this because I thought it was actually quite funny.
I do think we have a crisis of especially young men in this country. And they're, in many ways, disconnected from the rest of their families, disconnected from their communities, disconnected from our political culture, disconnected from our civil culture. And that's a real problem for a society that depends on all of us to be engaged and working together to make it as good of a country and as good of a society as it can be. I think the Democrats in this election made men feel like that the patriarchy is over, boys, and we're going to put you in the back seat for a while, and you're just going to have to accept it, without any thought to the ramifications of telling people who are out honestly trying to make a living, provide for their families, be good husbands, be good fathers. When you tell people who are doing their level best that either A, it's not good enough, or B, you're part of the problem, what do you expect? And then finally, as a political tactic, the attempt to put Walz on the ticket, and that was going to somehow solve all of the problems that had been built up for years, was ridiculous, because it turns out Walz was the last person that men wanted to hear from. And I remember at the beginning of that whole campaign, when they put him on, I sat right here, and people were like, oh, they got camouflaged hats. They're going to be wearing them in the deer stands this fall. And I think to your point that you just made, that was not that idea that was not formulated by a bunch of dudes who actually go deer hunting. It was come up with by a bunch of people who've never met a dude that actually goes deer hunting. But when you try to put that kind of window dressing on a real communications problem or a real relationship problem, it gets exposed immediately.
I'll go further. I'll be more blunt than Scott Jennings, where they lied about a, quote, patriarchy that exists in the United States. They lied about men is what they did. That's why men got upset.
Right.
They lied about them.
Right. Well, again, they were trying to define who people were. This is what the left has been trying to do for a long, long time. Look, the problem is you, and this is who you are as a person.
And what did they do? They brought in identity politics.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to judge you by the group that you're in. Men, you're the problem. The patriarchy, the patriarchy, the patriarchy, the patriarchy.
Yep.
And men just said, shut up.
Yeah.
Stop it. That's not what's going on in our society. You're lying about us. And so...
By the way, they did it with every group. Remember Obama scolding black men?
Yeah.
I mean, this is who they are. We're going to define who you are, and if you don't let us define who you are, then you're the problem.
Well, it was like a comedy show with Walz, as we said, and
so horrible.
Scott Jennings brought up the first, because we all burst out laughing.
Oh, my gosh.
Because the argument was, and I remember almost verbatim what the argument was. The argument was, Republicans are scared.
Yeah.
We have a vice president, a nominee who is from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Republicans don't know what to do. This guy, he's got his camouflage, he's got his rifle, he's got his hunting cap. Republicans are just scared to death of a Democrat with testosterone.
Right.
Well, my God, it was a month and a half later, and they completely reversed it.
Right.
Both with
Doug Emhoff.
Doug Emhoff.
Yeah.
And Walz. Well, you guys are actually the new kind of masculine figures out there that isn't loaded with testosterone.
Right.
And it was like we were watching or reading the Babylon Bee or watching one of the Babylon Bee's videos. It was like, you need to shut up. You're condescending.
Yeah.
This is condescending, to men out there. You're not going to win men by doing stupid things like this. Stop blaming men as a group. Obama, stop blaming black men.
Right.
Stop saying that the patriarchy, men, and the dominance of men. The only place where the dominance of men is destroying women is what the Democrats fully endorse, which is the radical transgender movement, where the man gets to decide what defines a woman.
Exactly.
And the woman should give up her private spaces. A woman should be willing to be threatened and intimidated by a man. You know, it's just pure insanity. And there is no self-awareness of what they did at all. None. And any that's out there is still an outlier.
Well, and then, on the whole thing after Nancy Mace, Hakeem Jeffries comes out and, talks about bullies.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, they don't
Basically,
get it.
Hakeem Jeffries is saying, ladies, how dare you bully the men? That's what he was saying.
I know. Which is why when she just told the one reporter, and if you believe this, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
Great moment.
Yep. Oh, I thought it was a great moment.
Yeah.
Looking to protect women. Another woman who's actually been a victim is looking to protect other women, and she is wrong for it.
And I don't know who the reporter was for ABC, but it was like they were hyper.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get her. We're going to get her now. We're going to get her now. We're going to get her now. And it's a male.
Yeah.
It's a male reporter.
Yeah, another man going at a woman. Yeah. How dare you? How dare you protect the women over the one man?
And they don't see the misogyny.
They don't see it. They don't care about it.
One of the best things over the last year, and I think you will agree with me on this, in this whole thing, was when Riley Gaines came out and said misogyny.
Yeah, right.
When she accused him of misogyny, if you've been a medium time listener to this show, we've been saying that for years now. The misogyny part of the radical transgender movement,
right,
which is so incredibly blunt, and then the threats and the intimidation and the gaslighting,
right,
messaging being sent out by Democrats to women out there was just, we shook our heads going, wow. And they still don't get it. They still don't get it on the border. They still don't get it with the radical transgender movement. They have no idea, and they're doubling down. So they're not going to change. Nothing's going to change. They're not going to, and they have to change on the issues, and they don't realize that.
No.
There still is
really
no realization. We have to change what we believe as a political party. Now, you and I have said we don't know how they do it. They don't know how they're going to do it. And now it's like, okay, we're not going to do it, because how do you reverse it? The problem always is when your political philosophy is to divide. You divide, create more victims, therefore more oppressors. You judge people by groups. And by the way, it's old school and new school.
Yep.
Obama did it. Black men. And then the black men are misogynist. Hispanic men are racist and misogynist. It's like, okay, that's going to work. Let's get men back by lying about them.
Right. They really, again, it shows they don't really care. They're not concerned at all. They're not concerned about their political viability going forward. They're not concerned about women.
No.
This is how they think. This is who they are. This isn't some kind of charade they've been putting on. This is how they think.
Yep.
We said years ago, man, it was a long time ago, we said Democrats need to own what they believe. Here we are. Maybe we're at fault. They used to try and, again, boil the frog slowly. It's over. Ribbit. I mean, it's full on at every turn. The radical left is becoming more and more radical, even after being defeated by Hitler.
And now they're heading to Hitler's retreat.
Exactly.
Oh, I can't think of the name. What was the Hitler's retreat? I can't think of the name of it. Oh, I wish I could. When I started going, come on, brain. Remember, what was Hitler's retreat? What was the name of it? I wanted.
Well, for the next 4 years, it's going to be Camp David. Actually, it will still be Mira Lago.
Well, then again, when Trump said, I told my the weekly golfers, I won't be doing it anymore. There's too much work to be done.
Right.
It's going to be fascinating. But as we said earlier, war is going to start. You're thinking to yourself, there's no way they can't demonize more. They will demonize more and probably mobilize more because the opposition is in power.
Yeah, right.
It's going to get ugly, folks.
It is.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I was just reading here about the spinoff of MSNBC, CNBC and others, and I just thought the question is who people think will buy MSNBC.
Yeah, because
buy it.
They're still fairly profitable, but you're basically setting it up for a sale. Most believe in the way that they're setting it up. You spin it off in this way. And Comcast is holding on to other properties, including the network, NBC. And so when you look at that, it appears they're setting it up for a sale. I don't know who would be in that game. I mean, if they're profitable, a smaller company might come in and look to grow them. Then what happens, right? You think about John Malone being part of the Discovery Group and coming in, and what he said about CNN. This goes back a couple of years, but saying that, it has to change. They need to get back to news. And, we kind of were looking at that going, well, you can have opinions. You just need to identify what you are. You need to know what you are. If you're going to be journalists, then be journalists. Hire true journalists, not activists. And if you're going to have opinionated shows, then just have all opinionated shows, and that's what you become. I don't know of doing 24/7 news like the old headline news.
No, I don't.
I don't think that
no.
we said at the time, we don't think that would work. That's what John Malone was pointing to. I don't think you can go back to that. I don't think it will hold the interest.
Again, the problem is where they stand on the issues, the craziness.
It's just radical.
That's something the Democrats still, and we'll have more audio coming up on that, still don't understand.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Mr. Eric Harley.
Hello.
I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. I'm giving you your due respect.
Thank you. Thank you.
There he is, Eric Harley, he/Haw. So
that's true.
You ready?
I am ready.
All right. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell testified in front of the House Oversight Committee yesterday on what's her name, Marnie Washington's allegations. Remember that if there were Trump signs, sorry, you didn't get help from FEMA.
Right.
And she claims it just isn't her. She claims it's institutional.
Right.
Well, let's hear the Jim Jordan back and forth with the FEMA administrator yesterday.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Criswell, is Miss Washington lying to us?
Miss Washington has...
She said it's common practice. You said it's reprehensible and isolated. Both statements can't be true. So someone's not giving us the facts, and I'm kind of trying to figure out who's not telling the truth.
The actions that Miss Washington took were unacceptable.
Well, you had another employee. Now, they remain anonymous, but I think one of my colleagues pointed this out earlier. A FEMA official who spoke on condition of anonymity said Miss Washington likely received, quote, very clear guidance from her supervisors. Is that not that person lying too?
I have not received any evidence outside of the screenshot that Miss Washington directed.
So those
her
two
team.
people are wrong. They're not telling the truth to us.
We are currently investigating this
But that's
issue
not what you
and
said.
bringing
You
in
said
the
this is
IG.
isolated, reprehensible, hasn't happened. This is the only time. And they're saying, nope, 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 it's commonplace.
I am saying that FEMA's mission is to help all people.
Well, let's look at
before,
maybe
during,
the
and
best
after
evidence we
disaster.
have is the actual screenshot. Can you put the screenshot up on the screen? Let's look at what the text message said. The text message said, implement best practices. Like, this is the best practices. We're going to implement them. And they talk about making sure you're going in pairs or with more than one person, avoid the Trump homes, drink your water, take your towel, coconut waters. So stay hydrated, walk with someone else, and don't go to the Trump homes. It seems pretty common and matter of fact in the actual evidence we do have, the text message itself. But you're still saying Miss Washington and this other person aren't telling the truth.
When I received this text message, it was not in accordance with the way we conduct business at FEMA, and I directed
Even though it said
termination.
best practices, even though it said stay hydrated, which everyone would agree with, even though it said go in pairs, which everyone would agree with, even though it said bring a towel, make sure you're covered. I mean, it said coconut water is the best way to stay. Even though it said all those practical things, the part about avoiding the Trump homes, that's not a best practice. That's not commonplace. Is that what you're saying?
That is nowhere in our policy, and I can't speak to
I'm
the
not saying it's in your
motivations
policy.
behind what Miss Washington did.
But it was okay. Now, and her supervisor is this Mr. Hershey. Have you talked to him and to find out if he knew this was happening?
I understand that he was in her chain of command, and this is under investigation.
Have you talked to there's 13 people on this text message. Have you talked to all 13 of those individuals?
This incident is under investigation.
That's not what I asked you. I
Officer-
know it's under investigation. We know how investigations work when it's done inside the agency. It takes forever. I'm asking, did you talk to the 13 people on this best practices text message?
The Office of Professional Responsibility has taken this, and they are following appropriate protocol to investigate.
Is the Inspector General looking at it as well?
And I have asked the Inspector General to take a look at this. I
Any
welcome
idea when
their
any
review.
idea when they're going to talk to these 13 people since you have it? Have you talked to? How about you personally? Have you talked to any of these 13 people?
I have not talked to them.
You have not talked to
personally.
any
I
of them?
have an entire team that focuses on this investigation, and that's what they're doing.
All right. Let's stop right there. If you were in charge of FEMA and you knew who the people were, would you have communicated with them within the hour after you found out who the people in this text messaging group of that were in the text group? Would you have contacted them within an hour to find out what they knew? Personally, as FEMA director, she's saying, there's a staff to do it. I would be, how this thing has blown up,
Yeah.
I would be hands-on.
Yep.
They don't care. They don't care.
No, they don't. And again, this what you hear is the non-answer that we've heard from this administration.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I don't buy any of it. I don't buy any of it. And, the whole idea of this going to the Inspector General, well, that's going to take who knows how long. And they know what the practice is. They know how people are behaving. And I don't buy any of what she's saying. I don't. The problem is I can't trust anything any of them are saying.
No.
And this is exactly what we've gotten from everyone that's had to, from the administration that's had to go to talk to any or testify before any oversight committee on Capitol Hill during the Biden administration. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to give you a non-answer every time. They're going to walk around every question and not get straight to it. And this is, this is part, they don't see it. They don't really care. But this is a great deal of what carried the Trump victory, is to end this kind of insanity. They don't believe that they owe anybody an answer.
I found this interesting. I want to play this from James Comer yesterday. Here we go.
As Ms. Brown, I want to make this statement that during the recess for votes, my staff made contact with a new whistleblower who provided a credible account that a FEMA contractor visited the home of an elderly disabled veteran's family around October 10th following Hurricane Helene. While there, the FEMA contractor recommended that the family remove Trump campaign materials and signs from both their house and their yard. He warned the family that his FEMA supervisors do not take kindly to Trump supporters and that they seem as domestic terrorists. The elderly homeowners were so frightened by this and afraid that they would not recover their loss that they removed all Trump materials and signs. Nevertheless, FEMA has not returned to their residence. This took place not in Florida, but in Georgia. Administrator, we're happy to provide you with more information on this, but we and the American people want to know what FEMA is doing to ensure that political discrimination is not dictating how the American people are receiving aid following a disaster.
See, the thing is, if I was FEMA director, I'd be furious.
Yeah.
Because you and I've talked about this, before. Part of it, the way that, all of it's the way that we were brought up. I know for me, my parents, my mother, I always talk about when it snowed. And my brother and I would shovel our driveway, and we'd come in. We'd be so proud. Mom, we did it. She goes, well, you need to do the next door neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
How much should we charge them? You don't charge them. They're elderly. Well, so we have to go shovel their driveway? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in our minds, we're thinking, well, then you do it. Because, again, we were teenagers, I'm assuming at that point. We've finished that. I'll never forget one snowstorm. We did like 5 driveways. And my mother said, you don't ask for a penny. You didn't care what their politics were. You didn't care about anything. And that was a lesson I learned at that day. You help no matter what. Boy Scouts also taught me that.
Mm-hmm.
In Boy Scouts, you help. When people need it, you help. If, as I've said before, if the neighbor near me that on Facebook a few months back put out the note that if anybody is a Trump supporter, unfriend me now. If their family was out there and had trouble with their car, I'd be the first one to help them. That's how I was raised. I'll be passionate. I will be blunt. I will destroy their arguments if they wish to have a debate. But if any human needs help, they get it. It's that simple. Especially in an emergency.
Especially when you're part of an organization that's sole purpose is to help people in need.
So
it's your job.
So taking that's me. If I'm FEMA director, I'm absolutely livid. And she's basically, well, other people, you haven't looked into it yourself. You're the head of the damn organization. I would have, and at the minimum said, I've been in contact with all 13 people. I do have concerns, but because of whatever, personnel, because I'm sure they've got to follow HR stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of HR stuff, I can't really delve into it anymore. If you wish to have a non-public whatever session, I can answer more of those questions. Not that it's top secret, but there's personnel matters here. I can go a little deeper. That would be at the minimum, right?
Well, I mean, it would be, you wouldn't be able to stop me from taking action immediately and starting an investigation, and it starts with having those individuals.
No, but I mean her response. I mean her response to Congress.
That's exactly what I'm saying. is that you wouldn't have stopped me from taking action as the director, so that naturally would have been my answer.
Yeah.
That's where it would naturally go. But if you don't care about it, you send somebody else to do it and you have no idea what's going on. That sounds like you're trying to build plausible deniability. And that's the other concern that I would have. What this looks like on me.
Yeah.
Everything stops with me. I don't want this coming back on me. I don't want it looking like I'm in charge of telling people to do that, because I'm definitely not. And I'm going to do the investigation myself, because that's my job as director. I stop everything. Everything stops.
Well, and the other thing is, once these allegations happen, I'm not sure what the people beneath me are doing. I don't know who I can trust. So if I'm ever going to be hands-on, it would be in this particular situation. Why? Because I run the organization. I own it. And this thing can come flying back at me. And if I knew nothing about it, I'm making sure that I solve the damn problem.
Yeah, it's got all of my attention from the moment I learned it.
When you look at that list, though, oh my gosh, it's like Jim Jordan was saying, it's like drink coconut water, make sure you stay hydrated, don't go to Trump homes, as if it's just another,
Right.
just another in the list. It's not. It's like
of natural things to keep people safe that would be naturally on anybody's list.
Right.
Well, if it is accurate and true, and it was coming from their supervisors, then somebody gave it to their supervisors. If that, again, all of these things are in place, then it goes all the way to the top. That would be my greatest concern if I'm at the top. And I would want to weed out every single bit of it. And anybody who asks me about it, you can rest assured, everything that I can do right now is being done. It has all of my attention, because FEMA will not be run like this on my watch.
Yeah. And her tone is so much like so many of the Biden administration officials that have testified, non-caring.
Well, it reeks of the answers that we suspect. That this is part of the culture, and she's trying to soft walk around it. She's walking around the answers. What naturally should you be hearing from somebody if it truly wasn't the culture at FEMA? I'd be livid. Still today, I'd be livid. That anybody is circulating any kind of memo like that and directing any of the workers on the ground to behave this way, I'd be livid. I'd be calling for everyone to be in front of me now.
And as we said, if we ever worked for one of these organizations, that thought would never, ever even enter my mind. Would never enter my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's okay to do this. I'd never even, not even why? Because of the intensity I would feel, the intensity to solve the problem once you're there and you see the destruction. Because once you see the destruction that they had there and these people are suffering, if that thought's in your mind, you're as pure evil as I can say. I don't even know, because it does. This is something that there's not much that upsets me, because there's always an expectation. This is the stuff I can't imagine being on the ground, seeing the destruction, seeing the suffering of people, and then actually saying, but if they have the opposition political party sign on their lawn, you don't go and help them. Go to hell.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine having that mindset.
Can't imagine. It just would be foreign to me. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Well, the border czar's out there. The incoming border czar. There was no border czar, remember, in the last administration, even though there was.
Yeah, we thought there was.
Yes. Here's Tom Homan on Fox News yesterday.
A lot of people have wondered, how is this going to work? So how will it work?
Well, look, I think the president's been clear on the stage. As far as the deportation operation, we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats because they pose the biggest danger to the United States. Security, he's got three rails. So we'll do the deportation operation with the priorities I just talked to you out of the gate. That'd be the priorities. Second thing is secure that border. Lock that border down and catch and release and secure the border. The third rail is we got over 300,000 missing children. Over 500,000 children have been trafficked into the United States. This administration released them to unvetted sponsors, and they can't find 300,000 of them. And based on my 3.5 decades, some of these children are in forced labor. We already found some in forced labor. Some are in forced sex trafficking. Some are living with pedophiles. We need to save these children. So that's going to be the third rail.
But why wasn't that a bigger issue? Why don't Democrats care about that at all?
I don't know. It seems like they've ignored it completely.
Yeah. That, to me, in other times in our nation's history, would have been a massive story. And when it came out, it was like, shrug. Now,
they talk about separating families and all this, and you don't care about hundreds of thousands of missing children?
Yeah.
And finding them? I really don't get it. Because now, again, as we brought you earlier, now you can't deport anyone. Yeah, there might be terrorists here. There might be people who want to do harm and criminals and everything else, but you can't deport anyone. They're against deportation across the board. Wow.
If the two idiots overnight can understand it, so can you. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. This next audio was posted by Students for Liberty. And it's really interesting because, where we are as a country right now with the power of the federal government was not the intent of the originalists, the founding fathers of the United States. Nobody ever thought the federal government would be as big as it is right now. They just didn't. And you look at all the different departments, you look at the ability to acquire debt, and you see the harm. Well, we've seen the harm that it's caused our nation just with inflation right now, and there's a lot more harm coming down the pike. But it was never intended that the federal government would be doing all the things that they're doing. Most of that was supposed to be relegated to the states. Mm-hmm. And you and I have talked about it, and this has been talked about now, and I saw this, somebody just had a paragraph in it, and it was I think it was just one of their opinions, unless they have sources inside the Trump administration. But the last Trump administration tried to get rid of Fannie and Freddie. They were unsuccessful, but they tried. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're really looking, and this was the thread was about Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, if you're really trying to reduce the spending, and therefore, because there's two things. By reducing the spending, you're trying to reduce the power and authority of the federal government in things that they shouldn't be involved in.
Right.
And you and I have stated it before, and this is where back in 2008, 2009, almost all the media got it wrong, especially the mainstream media got it wrong. 2008, 2009, and the housing crisis would not have happened if Fannie and Freddie did not exist.
Take them out of the equation, it never would have happened. And we lined that out very clearly in a very organic borrowing, lending scenario. It would have been exactly what it had been for ages. You set up the two government-sponsored entities to back all of those loans, and that's what you get. That's what you get in that crisis.
And the ability, the unfair competition set up by the government.
Yep.
People wonder still today, well, how come nobody was ever punished? How could they be doing what they were doing? How could these be whatever it is, AAA, AAA guaranteed loans when
ratings,
the ratings when it was bogus? And we said, easy. They had the implied guarantee to the federal government.
Right.
They didn't care whether they had bad loans. The federal government was going to back it, which they did.
Of course, Wall Street would go crazy on that. You've got all of those bundles had the backing, the implied backing of the United States government.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so, as we've always said, well, if the federal government wasn't involved in it, people would have still had homes.
They would have been smaller.
They would have been like we saw our parents living in.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of what we saw, the square footage of homes, which probably at least doubled, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because
in that time frame, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my father was an engineer, and he was working all the time. We grew up. It wasn't even 1,000 square foot home.
We had 1,000. I think it was the one in San Antonio, their first home they bought. Still exists, by the way. It's still there. They've added on one room to it since then, and it was 1,060-something square feet. And I didn't feel, I was a kid. I shared a room with my three brothers, had two bunk bed sets, and, my sister had her own room. And then my parents. And, that's what they could afford. I think Dad told me in the recent years, I think they paid $16,000 for that house then.
Yeah, I think my parents was like, the full cost was like 18.
Yeah.
Now, my father did help, build the basement and the foundation of the house. Right, I'm looking at, I'm looking at the house I grew up in right now. I hadn't looked at it in a couple of years. Wow. They built a huge addition in the back.
Yeah.
Because now it's like 1,500 square feet, where it was not even close to that. But they have a huge room in the back.
Yeah.
Man, it looks real neat.
Right.
Let me look at, there's the basement. They got a lot of pictures. It's it sold this year. That's why they got so many pictures. It sold again this year.
All right.
What did it sell for? $320,000.
All right.
So
yeah,
and I think originally it was 18. Back in that would have been when that would have been done. 50. Does it say when it was built?
Probably somewhere, yeah.
But I mean, the suburb was all the suburbs were like that.
Yeah,
they were all exactly like that. All the houses were little square houses, and you went to a bank and you got the mortgage for it. All the government did was expand the debt that you were allowed to go into to buy a home with fancy financial finagling, which was guaranteed by the sucker taxpayer.
Well, remember Barney Franks, who was on the committee when you had then Treasury Secretary Snow in 2003. Actually, I think the day he said it was actually, I think, the anniversary of 9/11. I think it was September 11th, 2003. And he was telling the committee, the Treasury Secretary, that Fannie and Freddie can't sustain. This is not doable. And the Democrats' answer was, no, what we need to be doing is more of it. We're not doing enough of it. That's why there's so much pressure. Inevitably, it's like saying, basically, well, you've got a small hole in your tire, but the rest of your tire's fine. The tread looks great. And eventually, we had the implosion. They ramped up that kind of activity and the type of subprime mortgages that they were offering as a result of it. And that's how we got to the end of 2008 and into 2009. People didn't have teeth in the game. They walked away from homes. They didn't care. 0 down, low interest. They didn't have anything in the game. And keep in mind all along, and the New York Times, September 30th, 1999, warned about this.
Yep.
Said it will make the S&L crisis look tiny by comparison. This new plan for subprime mortgages. And if the idea was to get people out of older neighborhoods and get them into the American dream of owning a home. But what they did, the effect of it is so many people went through foreclosures that they may never have the credit. They may never have the credit worthiness going forward to buy a home again.
And there it is. Washington Post had the story. The first Trump administration tried to remove 2 mortgage giants, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, from government control. The second could finish the job. And you know, as we stated in 2008, 2009, the commercial banks would have never offered the deals that they did.
No.
If it wasn't for the unfair competition of the...
They only had to originate the loan, and then, boom, they sell it off to Fannie or Freddie.
Right.
It's gone.
But the reason,
it's off their books.
Right, but the reason that they, even if it didn't go off their books, the reason that some of the private banks had problems was because they were competing. They couldn't compete with Fannie and Freddie.
Yeah,
they had to offer,
the other banks, yes.
Yeah, they had to offer these risky... They had to offer these risky loans.
It was part of the deal.
In order to compete.
Yep.
And it was like, duh.
Yep.
And...
Well, they told them, if you don't have so much of this product as a part of your lending portfolio on your books, we're not going to consider you for other regulatory items. Sorry.
Right.
So they basically told them, you're going to have to play this game or else.
And so I just happened to see this. Students for Liberty posted this video, which you can hear the audio, of Milton Friedman being asked, the late economist Milton Friedman being asked what departments he would get rid of. I'm guessing he looks pretty old here, so I'm guessing this must have been about 2000. He was a little bit older because a lot of the videos we played, he was in the 80s and early 90s, but he looks older here. But here it is. Just I saw it and I went, okay, I got to play this on the air. We used to play a lot of Milton Friedman. But let's hear this. Here we go.
14 is a lot for television, so I want to just go right down the list quickly and have you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Keep them or abolish them. Department of Agriculture.
Abolish.
Gone. Department of Commerce.
Abolish.
Gone. Department of Defense.
Keep.
Keep it. Department of Education.
Abolish.
Gone. Energy.
Abolish.
How?
Except that energy ties in with the military.
Well, then we shove it under defense.
That's
the little bit that handles the nuclear,
right, that ought to go under
plutonium
defense.
and so forth goes under defense, but we abolish the rest of it. Health and Human Services.
There is room for some public health activities to prevent contagion, such a thing as, for example.
So you'd keep the National Institutes of Health, say, and the Center for Disease Control down in Atlanta?
No, not the National Institute.
Oh, no?
Those are mostly research agencies. No, that's a question of whether the government should be involved in financing research.
And the answer is no.
Well, that's a very complicated issue, and it's not an easy answer with respect to that.
We'll eliminate half of the Department of Health and Human Services?
Like that.
Okay, 1/2. There we go. Housing and Urban Development?
Out.
Oh, didn't even pause over that one. Department of the Interior?
Oh, well, but housing and urban development has done an enormous amount of harm. My God. If you think of the way in which they've destroyed parts of cities under the rubric of eliminating slums.
Jack Kemp,
you know, you remember, and Martin Anderson wrote a book on the federal bulldozer describing the effect of the urban development. There have been many more dwelling units torn down in the name of public housing than have been built.
Jack Kemp has proposed selling to the current inhabitants of public housing their unit, their townhouse, their apartment, for $1 a piece, and just shifting the ownership to the people who live in it.
If you got rid of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would be worth doing that.
All right, done. That's gone. Department of the Interior, your beloved National Park Service.
Well, given the problem there is, you first have to sell off all the land that the government owns. But that's what you should do.
But it could be done pretty quickly.
It could be done. You should do that. There's no reason for government to own. The government now owns something like 1/3 of all the land in the country.
And that's too much. Should go down to zero.
Should go down to, well, not entirely zero. They ought to own the land on which government buildings are.
Okay, terrific. Department of Justice.
Oh, yes.
Keep that one.
Keep that one.
Labor.
No.
Gone. State.
Keep.
Keep it. Transportation.
Gone.
Gone. The Treasury?
You have to keep it to collect taxes.
All right, collect taxes through the Treasury. Veterans Affairs?
You can regard the Veteran Affairs as a way of paying essentially salaries for services of those who have been in the armed force. But you ought to be able to get rid of it.
You should be able to
pay it off. Pay it off.
Pay off lump sums, perhaps.
That's right.
And just get rid of it. Okay, Milton Friedman, if you are made dictator for one day, the next day the American government...
No, I don't want to be made dictator.
You wouldn't?
I don't believe in dictators.
Okay.
I believe we want to bring about change by the agreement of the citizens. I don't believe in arbitrary rule.
Let me put it this way then.
If we can't persuade the public that it's desirable to do these things, we have no right to impose them, even if we had the power to do it.
All right.
There you go.
Well, you know, I mean, the collective will is something that, again, has to be brought about. The consensus has to be built. I mean, adding on to what he was saying there toward the end. And, you know, we have this willful ignorance that goes on, but we also have this far-left radical activist portion of our society that's never going to go away.
But we did talk about this the other day. Do we actually have a consensus? There's a lot of things that were talked about. The massive cutting that they're talking about was a little bit of a part of it, but that's not what people voted on. And so you have to ask the question, everybody's jumping up and down like this is going to be great. And we said it's going to be ugly fast. We don't know if the public is ready for the cuts that Elon Musk, you might be, and and conservatives might be. I don't believe the American public is yet.
Right.
I want to be wrong on that, you know.
I hope they prove us wrong.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, you're going to want to hear this poll. The first poll is out, and we'll have it for you coming up following the top of the hour. The brand new 2028 Democrat primary poll. Who Democrats wish to run in the primary in 2028? Against J.D. Vance or whomever wins the Republican nomination.
We'll give you a hint. It's not Taylor Swift.
No, she does not lead.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.